Hey, my pa, what's wrong with ya? So this is CJ Baker, and this is an epic soundtrack to a mundane existence. So recently I had the pleasure of interviewing Chris Dowd, founding member of the legendary genre-bending band Fishbone. So before the interview, I did a deep dive and listened to every Fishbone album. So I figured I might as well make a video where I do a ranked album list. So from worst album to best album. And this also includes the just released new album, Stockholm Syndrome. So we'll get right into the list. So album number 9 is Still Stuck in Your Throat from 2006. And I have this album rated at 2 stars. So considering this album was over 30 years into their career, they were bound to have a dud. So this album, it's long, uneven, and unfocused. And the best song on the album is a cover of Sublime's Date Rape. And really, that's a terrible song that should have never been covered. So the fact that this is the best song, it just shows how the ball was that low. So what's the best track on the album? The best track is Date Rape. So it makes me cringe just saying that. And the worst track, which is even more cringe, is Let Them Hoes Fight. So the eighth album is Chim Chim's Badass Revenge, released in 1996. I've had this at 3 stars. So it's basically an overblown, convoluted concept album that has something to do with a space monkey. So to be fair, many concept albums are convoluted, but some succeed and become classics despite this. But this album, it's way too long and uneven, and at times it's a bit of a drag to listen to. It also suffers from the loss of two original band members, Chris Dowd and Kendall Jones. And when I interviewed Dowd, he mentioned that he left due to disagreements in creative direction. So I can see if this was going to be the new creative direction, I can understand why he left. But that being said, the album is not without merit. I enjoyed the 3 song sequence of Psychologically Overcast, which featured Busta Rhymes, who never does a bad feature, Alcoholic, and Love Hate. So that was a really good sequence. I also appreciated the statement that the song Rockstar was trying to make concerning the overlooked contributions of Black musicians to rock music and the systemic racism within the music industry. So I did like the concept of the song, but unfortunately, the tune was a bit too disjointed in execution. But if the album had been cut in half and was a bit more focused, it potentially could have been a really good album. So the best track is Love Hate. The worst track, it's basically both interludes. So the interludes kind of help bring the album down. So album number 7. So it's credited to Fishbone and the Family Hood Experience. And then the album is the Psychotic Friends Networks. So it's released in 2000, and I rated it 3.5 stars. So this is a serviceable album that does go through the motions a bit, but there's nothing really bad on it. It's just kind of just there. But there are a couple of solid moments, like the first 2 tracks, Shaky Ground and Suffering. But neither song treads new ground, but they have like a really cool chill out vibe, which I did enjoy. And also the song Just Allow is a rollicking tune with some tasty guitar solo. So the best track on the album is Suffering. The worst track is Everybody is a Star, which is a cover of the Sly and the Family Stone classic tune. And it's mostly more bland and bad, even though the tune does go a bit off the rails towards the end of the song. But it's just an unnecessary cover. It also features Gwen Stefani, and I kind of maybe it's unfair, but I don't particularly like Gwen Stefani. I have a bit of a personal bias against her. So we'll now go to our next album. So it's In Your Face, released in 1986. And I had this at 4 stars. So this is either the sophomore or the debut, depending on whether or not you count their self-titled EP. So the slight sophomore dip in comparison to the self-titled debut, but it's still a strong album. And it was also important in helping to expand the genre bending template by adding elements of jazz and soul to the hybrid of funk, punk, and ska. And it also featured their trademark blend of infectious grooves and social commentary, which they would go on to perfect even more so on the next release. And also, as a bit of a fun fact, on the original iconic John Cusack holding a boombox seat and say anything, instead of In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel, the song that was originally playing was Turn the Other Way off this album. So John Cusack is actually a really huge Fishbone fan, and in multiple movies, he's actually wearing a Fishbone shirt. So the best track on the album, When Problems Arise, the worst track is Post Cold War Politics, which is not really a bad tune, but it's just a little over a minute long and it's just kind of there. It's also a weak way to close a strong album. So the next album, number 5, it's their recently released album, Stockholm Syndrome, which I had at 4 stars. So because of recency bias, it's hard to know where to rank this album, but it is a strong return to form. And it also greatly benefits from the return of Dowd, who wrote the politically explicit singles Racist Piece of Shit and Last Call in America. And he also composed the heartbreaking Why Do We Keep On Dying, which is another powerful highlight on the album. So part of the reason why the album resonates, it's because of the current political climate. Like in this current political climate, this album we could be viewed as a soundtrack of what's happening right now. So the best track on the album, Secret Police, which has a chilling 80s inspired post-punk vibe, and it features lyrics that could easily apply to what is currently going on with ICE. The worst track, Gelato the Clown, and the song's not even that terrible. It's just I had to pick one song. So we'll now go to album number 4, The Reality of My Surroundings, released in 1991. And I also had this at 4 stars. So this is the album where Chris Dowd really started to step it up creatively. So he was making the keyboards an integral part of the sound. And he was also more involved with the songwriting and taking lead vocals on a couple of tracks. So Dowd doesn't have the same charisma as Angelo Moore, but he has a strong voice that effectively conveys the lyrical message. So the album showcases the band's electrical musical style, blending ska, punk, and funk seamlessly. So the album also features really strong bookends, opening with Fight the Youth, a powerful anthem that addresses social issues with urgency and energy, and closing with the equally powerful Sunless Saturday. So the best track on the album, Sunless Saturday. The worst track, Baby Head. So the song is raunchy, but not in a good, sexy, fun way. It's borderline cringe, and it's the only blatant misfire on the album. So album number 3, Give a Monkey a Brain, and you'll swear he's the center of the universe. So released in 1993, and I had this at 4 stars. So the final recording featuring all 6 original members at the time of release, the album was divisive. But since then, it became a cult fave. The album was a stylistic departure, boasting an impressive amount of heaviness that rivals any metal band, especially with the opening 3 tracks. But after that strong trio of tunes, there's also a refreshing cool down with a return to the roots with the vibey ska tune unyielding conditioning. But there is a slight dip of quality in the second half of the album, and it is a bit long, which is a common issue during the CD era of the 90s. But overall, it's still a really solid album. So the best track, Black Flowers, which is heavy and atmospheric with some great vivid imagery with the lyrics. The worst track, Drunk Schizo, so the song is uneven and juvenile. It almost sounds like a Red Hot Chili Peppers outtake. And that's not really a good thing because I'm not particularly a Pepper fan. So we'll now go to album number 2. So the second best Fishbone album, Truth and Soul, released in 1988. And I had this album at 4.5 stars. So this is the second full-length album, or if you include their debut EP, their third release. So on this album, the band came together as a cohesive unit, with each band member showcasing their strengths, both as songwriters and musicians. They skillfully interpret a variety of influences, which is best exemplified on the album opener, which is their rendition of Curtis Mayfield's classic, Freddie's Dead. So they transform it from a soulful reflection into a hard-hitting cautionary anthem. So this really is the essence of Fishbone. They absorb sounds from everywhere and infuse a lifetime of socially conscious insights, and they blend them all to create something remarkable. And the album also closes strongly with the powerful rock ballad Change. So this makes for really strong bookends. So the best track on the album, Ma and Pa. The worst track, Deep Inside, which it's not really a terrible tune, but it's kind of filler. It's kind of just there. And also I had to pick one song. So before we reveal the number 1 album, I will include a bonus list of my top 10 Fishbone songs. So song number 10, When Problems Arise, off the album In Your Face. Song number 9, Secret Police, off Stockholm Syndrome. Song number 8, Freddie's Dad, off Truth and Soul. Song number 7, Sunless Saturday, off The Reality of My Surroundings. Song number 6, Ugly, UGLY, You Ain't Got No Alibi, off the self-titled Fishbone EP from 1985. Song number 5, Servitude, off Give a Monkey a Brain, and you'll swear he's the center of the universe. Song number 4, Party at Ground Zero, off the self-titled EP from 1985. Song number 3, Black Flowers, Give a Monkey a Brain, and he'll swear he's the center of the universe. And actually, I do love that album title. Song number 2, Ma and Pa, off Truth and Soul. And then song number 1 is Lion Ass. Let me that again. So song number 1, Lion Ass Bitch, off the self-titled EP. So I basically probably gave away what my number 1 is. It's the self-titled 1985 EP, which you could debate whether or not to include it because it is technically considered EP, but it is 26 minutes long and it features some of the band's best songs. So if you're new to Fishbone, I would recommend this as the starting point because I view this as absolutely classic. So I don't think I mentioned it. I have this album at 5 stars. And it has really strong bookends. It opens with the infectious opener, Ugly, and it ends with the catchy and scathing Lioness Bitch. But it also has a tune about Godzilla thoughts, and it has the all-time classic Party at Ground Zero. So really, what else do you need? Like it's a perfect debut. So the best track on the album, Lion Ass Bitch. And the worst track, Another Generation, which is actually a pretty solid tune, but I had to pick one song. So that concludes my list of Fishbone albums ranked in order. So are you a fan of Fishbone? Have you listened to all the albums? What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? What is your favorite Fishbone songs? Feel free to let me know in the comments. So if you enjoyed the video and you want me to continue to make videos, please like and subscribe. And as I previously mentioned, you can also check out the video of my interview with Chris Dowd. And you can also check out the website, Ongoing History of Protest Songs.com. So thanks for watching, and please stay safe. Second half of the album, and it is on the long side, which was a common issue during the CD era of the blah 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 blah. I'll probably have to just read that whole thing again.
She just la 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 la. You're nothing but a little lying ass bitch. You know she says she loves you, but you know she doesn't.